good evening and a very warm welcome to State of Business on our television. I'm Hishain Ali and let's have a look at the headlines first. President advises state institutions to purchase necessary furniture only from local suppliers. WHO warns that COVID-19 is the most severe global health emergency it has ever faced. News in detail. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa instructs all public institutes and offices to purchase furniture only from the local producers. President made these directives speaking to the general public gathered for an election rally organized by Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa at Battaramulla this morning. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today revealed that he had already directed the officials to purchase the required furniture for all the government offices only from the local producers. He made this revelation when a group of furniture suppliers from Moratuwa raised their issues of pricing and selling their hard-worked products. Former Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa had organized this election rally in Battaramulla this morning and the issue was raised to the President at the meeting. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa also attended several other election rallies in Colombo district and also promised to modernize and provide necessary equipment to the hospitals at Navagamua, Aturugiriya and Talangama. President also assured all the measures to wipe out the drug menace from the country. The attendees for the rallies also brought forward several other queries such as occupying the government lands or unauthorized settlements and the expenses incurred to maintain the prisoners. President also appreciated the proposal to maintain the prisoners from what they earn with their abilities and said he will soon direct the officials to work on it. Former permanent representative of Sri Lanka to the United Nations at Geneva, Tamara Kunanayakam explains that signing the Millennium Challenge Cooperation Agreement with USA will not be beneficial for a dependent country like Sri Lanka since USA has been usually benefited by the bilateral agreements with its hegemonic power. Addressing a press conference conducted by the Professionals National Front to clarify issues on the MCC agreement yesterday, Tamara Kunanayakam also explained how the bilateral conditionalities of MCC are different to those of the World Bank and the IMF.
The US has been privileging bilateral agreements as opposed to multilateral agreements because bilateral agreements are inherently unequal, especially if it's a treaty that is signed between a power like the United States, which is a hegemonic power, and a country like ours, which is totally integrated and dependent economically and socially on the United States and on the West in general. And in fact, we are even dependent on them to provide jobs for our people because we cannot provide jobs to our own people. So we are absolutely dependent on country outside and especially the United States. So there is no way we can have an equal treaty. What is novel and coercive about the MCC is that it has this preemptive method of administering aid, which means that it requires the state to implement the conditions before they receive the money. Unlike the World Bank and IMF conditionalities or other Western bilateral conditionalities, the US, the MCC, requires the state to implement the reforms before you get the money. So that's why we have to be careful.
Former Foreign Secretary and known diplomat Dr. Palitha Kohona stresses that the government should express their candid opinion on the Millennium Challenge Cooperation Agreement at least after the forthcoming general election without further delaying it, thus leading to a trust deficit of the people.
We know that a committee was appointed, the Gunaruwan Committee, to go into the pros and cons of this proposed agreement. The Gunaruwan Committee has recommended against concluding this agreement. But up to date, we don't know where we are on it. Is the government proposing to agree to this, or is the government going to shelve it? We also heard recently that the government will appoint another subcommittee to go into this, a cabinet subcommittee. And then the people who are supposed to go on this cabinet subcommittee, as opposed to those who were in the Gunaruwan Committee, who were academics and highly acclaimed persons in our society, are individuals who probably don't even have their O-levels. So what is going on? Are we being subjected to a game here where we are being tossed around? Our concerns are being played around with. I hope that at least after the election, the government will take a firm stance and deal with the electorate with a lot more transparency than it has been doing so far. And this is very important because a lot of confidence was placed in what we did in November last year when we elected a new president, and I believe the same confidence will be placed in the electors after the general election in another 2 weeks' time.
Stay tuned for more news right after this commercial break. Welcome back after the break. The Health Ministry announces that a total of 175 COVID-19 patients have recovered today, which is the largest number of recoveries recorded in a single day. Thus, the total number of COVID-19 recoveries in the country as of 2 p.m. today is 2,296. Accordingly, 23 coronavirus cases were reported in the country yesterday. Thus, 17 of them are inmates at the rehabilitation center in Senapura. 5 of them are arrivals from Qatar who were at a quarantine center in Ampara, while other one is a returnee from Saudi Arabia who has been in the Wadithupalai quarantine center. Moreover, the Health Promotion Bureau states that 1,126 PCR tests have been carried out in the country yesterday, surpassing the overall number of PCR tests conducted in the country to be more than 154,000. The Ministry of Health states that 175 COVID-19 patients have been discharged from their hospitals following complete recovery as of 2 p.m. today, and that this is the largest number of recoveries reported in Sri Lanka within a single day. Accordingly, the total number of recoveries recorded in the country has moved to 2,296 cases as of today evening. Moreover, 10 Sri Lankans in Doha have been repatriated to the country this morning in the QR668 airplane. The apex body responsible for international public health, World Health Organization, stresses that COVID-19 is easily the most severe global health emergency ever declared by the WHO. The WHO chief Dr. Ghebreyesus made these observations at the regular COVID-19 press briefing held yesterday.
This Thursday marks 6 months since WHO declared COVID-19 a public health emergency of international concern. This is the 6th time a global health emergency has been declared under the international health regulations, but it's easily the most severe. And the pandemic continues to accelerate. In the past 6 weeks, the total number of cases has roughly doubled. But although our world has changed, the fundamental pillars of the response have not. Political leadership and informing, engaging, and listening to communities, and nor have the basic measures needed to suppress transmission and save lives. Find, isolate, test, and care for cases, and trace and quarantine their contacts. Keep your distance from others, clean your hands, avoid crowded and enclosed areas, and wear a mask where recommended.
Reflecting on the election violations pertaining to the forthcoming parliamentary election, National Election Commission states that more than 5,400 complaints are reported so far. In the meantime, 164 complaints against election violations are logged during the time period between 4 p.m. on last Sunday to last evening. Accordingly, the National Election Commission states that 9 complaints over the violation of law are logged at the National Election Complaints Management Center, while 155 violations of law-related complaints are logged at the District Election Complaints Management Centers from 4 p.m. of last Sunday to last evening. Moreover, during this time period, a total of 164 complaints have been filed over the election law violations. Moving on, the Election Commission emphasizes that more than 5,400 complaints have been reported as of today evening. In the meantime, more than 4,380 cases of violation of law are reported. Stay tuned for stock updates. Welcome back after the break. The trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on a negative note today. The All Share Price Index dropped 5.70 points to close at 5,099.42, and the S&P SL20 dropped 6.74 points to close at 2,171.43. The turnover was 795 million rupees and over 51 million shares were traded. Up next are Forex rates. And that's all news for today. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Until then, take care and good night.